Mr. David Swanson, thank you very much indeed for being with us in this interview.
Yes, thanks for having me.
Mr. Swanson, U.S. Army suicide rates have reached their highest level in a year, both among active duty soldiers and those who have not been deployed to conflict zones. According to CNN, the U.S. military reported 21 cases of potential suicides among active duty soldiers. What is your thought on that? What is the reason in your opinion?
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a correlation between the unpopularity of wars and the suicide rates among those participating. Most members of the U.S. military, I suspect, are rather uncertain, are more than typically uncertain what in the world it is they're risking their lives and killing other human beings to accomplish. When two-thirds of Americans are against the wars, want them ended, and the Congress and the President are continuing them. Suicide in recent months in Afghanistan has been the number one killer of U.S. members of the military, more than deaths by enemy fire or friendly fire or anything else. So suicide is what is taking these people out. And even in wars where our president describes them as being something other than wars because no Americans are at risk, that is, we are using drones and we are staying away from the fighting, Americans are indeed at risk from suicide. We have had members of the U.S. military who kill people thousands of miles away, sitting at a desk, flying drones, who then go home at night and put a bullet in their own heads.
Today, soldiers and Marines are doing multiple tours of duty with very little break time in between each deployment. Even though they are suffering from mental trauma from post-traumatic stress disorder, they are often redeployed to Iraq or Afghanistan without treatment. Does it show the shortage of soldiers in the U.S. Army?
Well, it does indeed, if you consider it to be a shortage when we have a military capable of occupying bases around the globe and engaging in multiple wars simultaneously. I don't think the problem should be diagnosed as a shortage of troops so much as an excess of wars and operations, but it is a burden being placed heavily on members of the military who are not just being sent into useless, illegal, and immoral wars, but are being sent repeatedly. Iraq Veterans Against the War, an activist group of veterans of the Iraq and Afghan wars among U.S. Military members, is focusing on its efforts on organizing within active duty military in the United States to resist going back for repeated tours when you have post-traumatic stress and other mental disorders without being given substantial rest time in between. I think while my focus is on ending the wars in their entirety, I think it's a very useful focus that they are taking in highlighting the incredible burden being placed on these young men and women to do things that we haven't typically asked of soldiers in the past, even for wars that the American public supported.
Mr. Swanson, a large number of military surveys traced a direct link between lengthy and multiple deployments with a soaring PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder rates, after a large number of troops who were returning from their third or fourth deployment reported depression, anxiety, and acute stress. Why doesn't the Army recruit fresh soldiers in order to avoid multiple deployments?
Well, the U.S. military invests billions of dollars in recruiting new soldiers. It does everything it can to recruit new soldiers. It has military theme parks in shopping malls. It sends generals in uniform into kindergartens. It buys up billboards and movie trailers, ads during movie trailers and ads all over every medium in the United States. We put far more money into recruiting soldiers than we we put into educating children on a per capita comparison. But it isn't enough because Americans don't want to go into the military if they can help it. I mean, the struggling economy in the United States is a huge boost to military recruitment, but to the extent that Americans can still find other jobs and other careers to pursue, they don't want to go into the military because the recruiters' lines about the unlikelihood that you will go into a war are not believed anymore. Everybody knows that if you sign up, you're going into one war or another, and that makes recruitment very difficult, no matter how much money you put into it. So once you've got somebody recruited, once they've signed a contract that says they have no rights whatsoever, it's easier to keep them over for repeated duty than it is to get somebody new.
And one last question, Mr. Swanson. What preventive measures could be adopted by the U.S. Army, the Pentagon, or the Veterans Association in order to relieve the pain of soldiers and prevent further suicides among soldiers?
End illegal wars, end all foreign and unnecessary wars, cease using illegal and incredibly immoral weaponry such as unmanned aircraft, close down foreign bases and bring the troops and the fleets back to the United States, give most of the soldiers counseling and health care and retraining for civilian jobs in peaceful industries, and maintain a much smaller military actually dedicated to the oath that the soldiers believe they are taking, which is purely to defend the United States of America.
Well, Mr. David Swanson, founder of AfterDowningStreet.org and also author of War is a Lie, I really appreciate the time. Thank you very much indeed.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.